Hey, this is Willie Miller and Connie Miller from New Heart Living.
Hello.
And I just excited about this discussion today. Me and Connie have been talking for a while, and to be honest with you, I really just felt like doing an interview with Connie and just talk about her journey because, I was thinking about where she was in 2010 when we met, and how much God has just really used people, your tenacity, and a whole bunch of things just to
Yeah.
set you on a course that has just been phenomenal. And you struggled with doubt with your relationship with God. All
Yeah,
the
you
time.
can testify to
Yeah.
that
And
a lot because you
That's-
lived it with me.
yeah, it was what's the word? It was almost torturing. Our cat does not doubt that we love him. He's always in the way. But I mean, I don't know. It became sometimes, I don't know the right word for. It wasn't really crippling, but it wasn't.
Well, it was.
Uh-huh.
And it took me to the darkness. I mean, it would be a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember how many times I would go to him, what if I'm not really saved?
Mm-hmm.
That fear of not being saved.
Right.
When I knew I'd had a journey with God, even up to that point,
Mm-hmm.
with all my crazy beliefs that I had,
Yeah.
but because of part of what I just grew up with and my perspective, my own, and then what the church taught me.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And Connie, I think what was really cool, because there were some things that I was thinking about, just as you said that you had a hard stand on in the beginning of our relationship. And I remember one time,
What was that?
I just won't give you a say, I'll just tell you, because even though you questioned it, I remember I was driving, I think I was either going towards your house or away from your house.
This is while we were not married yet.
Yeah, we wasn't even
Okay.
married yet. And I think I was headed to your home.
Okay.
And I was driving my old truck and was just sitting there chatting, which we did quite a bit, and was talking about God. And you said something about your security and salvation. And it was so funny because you said, I hope you believe that you're secure in your salvation. Because if you don't, then you and I are going to have a terrible time.
I said that?
Yes, I remember
Isn't
that.
that crazy? I do not remember that.
I remember that just as clear as the
Really?
day. And
Wow.
so you,
But see, I would have moments, right?
yes,
But then I had more moments where,
you doubted.
oh, absolutely.
It was really struggling, and I think that was your way of saying, I got to try to believe this, and you was trying to get that into your own spirit, maybe.
Oh, I think maybe it was God speaking through me in those moments
Uh-huh.
too. It could have been, because he's confident of it.
Right.
So maybe that and that was him coming out in confidence. I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
really interesting. I do not remember that.
So yeah, I remember that quite well. But then there was times as we were first married, and even over the years, that you really struggled with that. Am I really saved? I mean, did I believe enough, or did
Yeah.
I pray enough? And all
Because
this-
I'd always replay when I called out to Jesus on my bed. I mean, I went through like torture, like just when was it? What if
Right.
it wasn't that? And it got to the point where I was confident that was the moment that I really,
right.
really actively began and believed
Mm-hmm.
in Jesus, and I knew I needed him.
Well,
But it was torturous questioning that all the time.
yeah, and I remember when God really set you on a journey, and I can remember some of the things that you would say. You'd be blown away, and you'd be all excited. But for the folks that are listening to this, what was it that really set you on that journey? That really got to the point where, number one, you say, I'm going to do something differently. But
Well, I don't even know what it was, but I know it was Joseph Prince's book,
okay,
Destined to Reign.
was
the first time that I started getting peace, because he gave understanding to the Old Testament, Remember how I had that book highlighted
Yes.
everywhere? And I said, why has nobody told me these things?
Uh-huh.
And I remember trying to remember to confess everything
Right.
like he did. And, that was the beginning of everything changing.
I think, don't you think that that's probably just, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that a struggle that most people have, because we've been taught that you got to remember these sins and confess them and ask for forgiveness. Is the word they use is repent, which I have a hard time using that like that. But
well, was that 1 John 1:9 verse?
yes,
Thinking that's for Christians.
right.
If you confess your sins, he's
Then,
faithful and just to cleanse you from. I don't even.
Yeah, but I think that it was a struggle for about everybody, and living. What was the thing? I just ask this because I don't want to answer the questions. I want you to answer it. What was it like living with that constant doubt, and to the point that you decided, okay, there's something I got to do about this? You think there was a point that was there?
I just think it was God going to make sure that I got the truth, because it was just getting very tiring.
Yeah.
Everything, because I was thrust into a position as being a pastor's wife. Everything's expected of you. People, without meaning to, put pressure on you,
Right.
to live up to a certain, and like I'm sitting here in my own world, struggling with all these issues that I had, and now I've got to go in here and meet everybody else's needs and all these expectations. So
Right.
I was constantly evaluating myself based on my performance, and my relationship with God was based on my performance. And that got it very exhausting.
Yeah.
But I really think it was God all the way making sure I was going to get, I don't even remember how that book came into my hands, but
I think you might have caught it on a TV show.
I don't know,
I think that's what happened.
but 2012 was the beginning of so much, the pivotal point of.
So that's a cool thing, because it took you somewhere, didn't it? Where did it take you?
It's still taking me.
Yeah, there you go. Where do you think it took you originally? Just
Oh, well, I started having more peace. Things started to fit together a little bit better. I wasn't as fearful anymore. I gained understanding of what the scriptures really were saying, because I was learning how to read it in proper context instead of just throwing out a scripture here or here, right? And go ahead.
I was just wondering, because I know the answer to this, but I was wondering if you could tell.
Is that what you were looking for?
It is, but it's also more to that.
Okay.
Because it wasn't just that book.
No.
Because all of a sudden
it was everything working.
Yes.
I was beginning to understand myself better,
Uh-huh.
because with the temperament testing you were doing, you went to school. I started gaining understanding of myself.
And
that
then-
was part of it.
And you started challenging yourself to study.
Yeah, because let's be honest, I didn't really do a whole lot of studying. I mean, I was in ladies groups and stuff, but like to really dig in deeper, I don't think I even knew how to do that. At the time.
Well, I just want to.
Because everything I would learn, guess what? I had to teach it. I mean, this is something it's always been that way. I can't just even today, if I'm learning something new, it's very hard to hold it in. I need to share it with somebody or just put it out there. Right?
Right. Well, and I'm not trying to make excuses though, but isn't it true that most of us pretty much, not that the church or the people told us to do this, but we just took whatever we learned as being truth and we never challenged anything. Don't you think that was
I think we do a lot of parroting.
Yeah. You hear, I don't know, certain theology, and I'm not picking on it, that's not what this is about today. But you hear a certain theology and you say, okay, then that must be truth. So I'm just going to keep with that. And so what I think it took you for, what it took you to do is are on a journey of challenging things, don't you think?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I remember I was facing people that when I was getting understanding about that was the law under the old covenant for Israel, but there was people who had that old mindset, and I remember one particular person that I actually had to block because this person was just adamant. I was learning something completely opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm not going to argue this because I know this is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot involved there. But now we've recently encountered this person again. And guess what? He has been radical. He's right there with us. And he's probably beyond in some of his beliefs.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, only God could do something like that. Because I'm telling you, this person was
funny
hardcore adamant.
Because he actually said, I need to apologize. And that was a whole God thing in that, and I just
But I remember God saying, when you know the truth about something, people are going to come against it. You need to know how to deal with this and stand up against it. Like how to deal with people.
So that brings almost two questions here. One, if I can remember both of them, is one, do you think that makes it even more important to really study more so that you can get that in your spirit really good so that when those things come? And number two is, did you ever feel like, or did you, maybe this is a word, did you ever feel like people were thinking you were a heretic?
Probably. Oh yeah, especially now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, if I went 10 years ago, if I look at me today, I would call myself a heretic. Seriously. Not even really knowing it's not what I am, but we go from what we believe and what we know. We're not sitting here deliberately trying to be a heretic. Now, maybe some people are, but I'm telling you, I think more so it's just, hey, and you have to stand for what you believe, even if it's wrong. God lets us walk through that process.
Yeah. Oh, that's
because we do have some truth in there. And like all of us, are learning.
That's a good question. Let's just throw that in there since you said that. What do you think about people going ahead and pressing through and maybe grabbing a hold of something and you find out 6 weeks, a month, or 2 months down the road, no, that doesn't line up with what I'm seeing here. That must be wrong. What do you tell somebody when they find a place where they get, this isn't right, I'm going to back away from it?
What would I tell them?
Yeah.
That you're gonna feel insecure sometimes because let's just face it, we often do care what people think, even though we say we don't. Right. We want to be liked, right? You're going to have that opposition, but you have to stand on your beliefs.
Yeah.
Like I said, even if there's some error in there, it's what we know at that time.
And
so you have to keep pushing through. You have to keep not let those voices, and that's a process because that God has to work with our own insecurities in that, and everybody's is different because they come from different backgrounds. And
so if you find something that's wrong, you don't quit, right?
No.
You just keep pressing through.
Right.
And you don't kill yourself.
And I may not share it with everybody because I might know that person's going to totally come against it, and I'm just not going to even go there because they don't even want to hear it.
You don't kill yourself emotionally because...
Not anymore. No, there was a time that I did.
Yeah, you made a mistake and it beat yourself up. Now you can say, okay, that's just part of the journey because...
Yeah, because I look back now, even when we were pastoring, man, we even say this, it's like, man, we were really wrong.
We wouldn't teach that. No way we would teach that.
I wouldn't. But there was a lot of things right, too. So, and we were just on a journey of learning really grace, too. So...
Yeah. And it's okay to make a few mistakes along the way because I was talking to you this morning about that because when little kids, I know this is simple, when little kids learn new things, they don't do it right. They might fall 3 or 4 times.
But little kids keep trying, most of them.
Yeah. They might even potty in their britches 2 or 3 times while they're learning how to not do that. But they keep going and we might make a little doo-doo while we're
Well, I can, we have a daddy, right? And it's like, I picture this, kids fall, and what are the parents saying? Come on, get back up. You can do this.
Right.
Let's go again. And isn't our daddy like that?
That's it.
He's always spurring us on. No, I think a lot of times we know something's not right of what we're hearing, or maybe that check in our spirit really is God trying to say, this is just religion.
Right.
This is, maybe you need to pay attention to what you're hearing here, rather than thinking it's bad, the check in your spirit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Because we've been so trained a certain way.
So we can use that as a place to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Because, I look back when we went and visited a church.
Oh my goodness! I know where you're going.
Do I need to say who the person
No,
was?
you don't need to. But
this preacher was well known and very, very legalistic. But anyway, it was his son that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know God had been speaking to me through music, rap music, Christian rock, all kinds of things. They were like, these people are like me. They're like just being real on their music, and
Right.
they would have a message of God in there. And this person says, if all music like that is wrong and it's from the pit of hell and this and that. And sitting there, I'm like, that is a lie. That can't be, because I know what God had been doing in my own life.
that's it.
And he had been speaking through all of that, all this music. So don't tell me that music's all evil.
So I want to backtrack just.
So my experience told me something else.
Right. Because I know that family history for a long time.
Oh yeah.
We all.
But at that time, I didn't know clue really.
But that person was just, what was the word you were saying? Mimicking? No, not mimicking. We're just we're copying what we've learned our whole life. That's
The father was like this, so why wouldn't the son be like that?
and it was just the way it was supposed to be, because if we're a good Christian, A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. And I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying that's what we've learned. And so when we start,
It's always focused on behavior.
Yeah.
Not that behavior is not important, but I've said it before, when it comes to a relationship with God, he's not concerned so much with that. He's got to get our belief system right.
Right. And that's exciting when we start doing that. And then we find ourselves pressing forward, and we get more and more of something, and we start learning things. We don't have to beat ourselves up because that's where we was, and we can celebrate where we are now.
And we're going to keep learning in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
We're going to know so much more even.
Mm-hmm. So when you is there a place in your relationship where you can say, okay, I know enough about God's grace? Or did you get to a place
Grace
where,
is personified in Jesus.
Yeah. So that's the point.
And Jesus is living in me.
Uh-huh. But
So once I got that down, you're talking about.
Yes. And
Well, you have to understand that to even be able to go somewhere else for God to show you something else now.
Yeah. So that's the key thing I want to bring out. Number one is the misconception about grace, what grace really is. And I think we just talked about that just a minute ago, because I think that understanding what grace isn't is really important. But once you learn what grace is and you start moving forward, is that a satisfaction point where you can stop, or do you keep on going?
I think God just kind of moves us forward.
Okay.
I don't even know if it's always a conscious thing. I mean, the Spirit of God is always working in us. And I think it's just as we go throughout our days and our experiences, and, step by step, he's showing us something new,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows what we're ready for and what we're not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about God.
Yeah, isn't it awesome?
He doesn't just plop it all on us
Mhm.
because we don't learn like that,
Uh-huh.
And you can't compare yourself to someone else saying, well, I should be there by now.
Right.
Well, stop it. We got to stop that.
It's okay where you're at.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And understanding that, and we don't come to a place, okay, that's good enough. I lost my point here. Were you at a place where you say, okay, that's all I need to know is I understand grace? Or what did grace, once you understand God's grace, and what is grace, Connie?
Well, gosh, it's a lot of things, but it's a person. It's God's divine influence upon the heart. It's his empowering presence that empowers us to become all that he sees us to be, that we are.
Right.
It's him living in us. I mean,
What is it not?
oh gosh.
It's not.
It's not undeserved favor.
There you go.
That's all I ever heard my whole life. Well, if it's undeserved favor, then grace, Jesus never had any.
Right.
Because it said that even Jesus grew in grace and truth
Mm-hmm.
with God, with the Father. And, but he didn't do anything that he didn't deserve. Not to, you know what I mean? He deserved it all.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Luke 2:52 that says this.
Right.
You know, he never did anything in his life that was not undeserving.
Right.
So it's so much more. It's not that. I think we've really got that wrong. Like if I give you a gift and I say, well, you don't deserve this, but now how do you think that makes a person, given a birthday gift, how does that make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a dirty, rotten scoundrel and they're giving me this, and you kind of feel, you would feel crappy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's kind of how we present grace.
That's it. And I think that that's a key thing, that once we start understanding that key thing, and we start seeing that what grace isn't.
Is it unmerited? Yes. We don't have to do anything.
Right.
We don't have to. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
But
It's more than that.
yeah.
It's more than that. And then, so we were sitting there and we're learning and we're growing in Christ, and we start getting this understanding of what grace is and what it isn't. And we're growing in that understanding. And then all of a sudden what happens is you start having questions about other things you believe.
Yeah.
And so because you're having questions about other things you believe, because if you believe what grace is, and it's all the fullness of grace, what it really is, then some of your old stuff, your other theology, I can't even talk, gets kind of tilted wrong, doesn't it? It doesn't fit.
Well, you have to throw it out
Yeah,
because it's not the truth.
it doesn't fit, does it? And
There's
that's
a
what.
lot of things we were
There you
taught
go.
that, I'm sorry, but didn't fit.
Yeah. So what kind of questions did that bring to you whenever
Oh my
you
gosh.
was? See, I slid this one in on her. I didn't give her this.
What now? What's the question?
What kind of questions did that bring to you when you start thinking, oh my gosh, this won't fit with the gospel of grace. This can't fit. So what's some things that don't make sense? I can think of one I'm going to help you
Why
out
don't you
with.
help me? Because there's a lot, I'm sure.
For instance, the message of tithing,
Yes.
because that's based on
God's going to bless you if.
because it's based on works, right? Or you do.
You got to do, if I give my 10%, I'm going to be blessed.
Right.
I was blessed before I even knew him. God was blessing me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, we're natural givers.
We should give. Yeah, that's nothing. wrong
But
with
if you get a real understanding what the Bible really says, you learn that that was not what that was all about. You know, look at the time they were teaching it. What was happening? What were they supposed to? There was a lot there. But man, they teach it like. I mean, I would be okay. Well, I can't. Now, if you can't, you need to pay a bill. Why are you going to go tithe?
Yeah.
And give it to the church. You think that's wisdom? God wants you to have your bills paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he doesn't just plop money in our lap.
I heard an African preacher just this week, and he goes,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I need to recorrect that. Yes, God can plop money in our lap, but it always comes from people.
right. It was so cute that what he said, God is sitting in the audience saying, I'm going to give you $1,000 and you don't have to do anything about it. No.
We have to put feet to something usually.
God has given you a principle to pay your bills. It's called work.
And budgeting,
And
right?
budgeting and stuff.
Living within your means. All that. I made a post about that. I didn't do any of that for a lot of years. I can't blame anybody for the financial situation I got myself in but me.
Right. Same here,
And you know what? And we are the ones that work with God's wisdom to get out of it.
Right, right. And that's the point I want to get at. But there was more questions, wasn't there? We just talked about finances, but it goes on. There's so much things that come into once you understand the covenant of grace. Then what's the next thing? Does my belief in let me think. Sacrifices may come the same. Not that there's anything wrong with sacrifice in itself as far as...
Are you talking about like we make sacrifices?
Yeah,
or
like...
Not killing an animal.
No, but like going on 2 weeks on a missions trip, it would sacrifice your vacation for it, you know. There's nothing wrong with going on a vacation to do missions. That's what I'm trying to say. But I'm talking about, we're not killing animals.
We feel pressure that we aren't I used to that I'm not a good Christian if I don't have a desire to go over and do mission work.
Right. You
have to be called to that.
Yeah.
God has to put that in you. That, you know, I've done 1 or 2 mission trips. I'm not going to be the person that's going on the street saying, "Do you know Jesus?"
Right.
You know, that's not me.
Well, she goes on missions trips every week because she goes into the prisons. But
there, I can be an evangelist there. You know, I can be. Anyway,
okay.
Yes.
So there's things you question and you start learning more, and then you challenge this and you challenge this, and I'm not going to get into all those things. Do you ever come to the point where you feel like you're going too far in challenging?
What if I'm wrong?
Right.
Then you get to the point where, what if I'm wrong? Because look, I was wrong over here.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like this might be right, but what if I'm wrong?
Right.
Because you have all these people. I'm telling you, people, we all believe. Every I don't know. Everybody believes something a little different.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think more afraid of, I just want to know the truth, and I don't want to live in error.
So you don't really think about, this is going too far, but it draws you to do what? Challenge.
Search it out.
Search it out. That's where I was trying to bring this. So for somebody that's thinking, wow, this could lead me to think this, and if it leads me to think this, then maybe I'll think this, and it becomes like a domino effect. And once you start understanding God's...
Well, it is like a domino
Yes.
effect. Because now there are more beliefs that are being torn down that weren't right,
Right. And I think
I'm really tired of people... Oh, gosh.
Go ahead.
I just vent about
Yeah,
this?
go for it. That's where I was trying to draw out.
People call someone else evil, and avoid them.
Right.
A heretic, because they see something different.
Right.
I may not agree with somebody in what they believe, but by golly, I don't think they're evil. Right?
No.
I mean, I'm not going to go calling them names.
Yeah.
I'll avoid somebody more over them being like that than what they believe.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, honestly, I don't think they've really searched some things out.
No.
They say they have, but some of the things I see in the comments, you have no clue. You just going by what you
heard. And so this is really important to me. So,
well, can I say something? Because when we've learned a certain way, we're going to see it, all of the Bible, through those lens.
Yes.
And we could not see it. I mean, really, we may not be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, with me, it's like my lens and my perspective has changed so much.
Is that a bad thing?
How I read the Bible and what I see now is, oh my gosh.
Is that a bad or a good thing?
It's been a great thing.
Why?
Because it all comes to fit together now.
Yeah. And
it makes sense now.
Yeah. So
I'm not running circles trying to make something fit in or bring it over here in my time and all this. Now I'm reading it in the true context of what it was being said. What is it saying to me spiritually? What can I learn? What is God wanting to show me through that?
Yeah, because I think so many times we try to build our basic theology to fit something on the sideline. I'm trying to be gentle on how.
Well, Jesus is the only perfect theology,
right? And so, but what we try to do is we base our salvation based on what we've heard about I don't know, eschatology.
No,
We'll
that's
just
not
use-
our salvation, though.
No, but I'm saying they'll
Oh,
try to
okay.
build our salvation so that it fits with
well, let me tell you something that
eschatology.
happened. Because
Uh-huh.
one thing I knew, because it was literally God that walked me through when He started writing to me and how He spoke to me in the gentleness and spoken. He was always lifting me up, speaking to who I was. He wasn't beating me up. And I literally learned from Him that I was eternally secure.
Right.
He's not unmovable. It took a lot of years for that to happen.
Right.
Okay? But I always heard about this mark.
Yeah, there you go. See, now
They're not, but if Christian takes the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because God had literally shown me that there is absolutely nothing that can rip me out of His hand, even myself.
Right.
I knew that had to be more. There had to be something else to that.
Uh-huh.
But boy, you hear the fear mongering. Don't take that mark.
Right.
That's what started my journey probably with all the eschatology stuff.
Right. Because if your eschatology, and I'm just going to say this, doesn't match, or wait a minute, we tried to make our salvation match eschatology, but the truth
Salvation, is that what you want to say?
Yes,
Or-
yes.
Okay.
We try to make our salvation belief match our eschatology beliefs. But in truth, our eschatology has to match what God's grace says about us, His completed work, how He's. We can't make
Well,
the
we try.
minors. We can't make the major match the minor. We got to make the minors match the major, is what I'm trying to say. So your theology has to line up with the gospel of grace. And we spend a lot of time growing up, as I did, trying to make our minors, which would be eschatology in my view, match our
Our understanding of who we think God is.
yes. And so
And is He this? Oh, He's going to get you, and you gotta watch out. And
right. So
you could walk out of it. You could step out of turn
So
away.
So our salvation has to line up with eschatology because, instead of eschatology lining up with the gospel of grace, the new covenant.
And that's really what it was all about.
Exactly.
If
And
and I don't know. I know all the other way that people believe,
Right.
and I'm not bashing anybody. If that's where you're at, but you know what?
Mhm.
God took us on a journey, and my gosh, when you start getting understanding of that, what it was really all about, you stop trying to judge what's happening in our world, thinking that's what He's talking about in Revelation.
Right. And so we sat there instead of saying, oh, well, there's just some things we'll never understand. And that's true to a point, but it's a poor excuse to sidestep that eschatology.
Eschatology really does matter.
It does matter, but
Because
it's got to line up with the gospel of grace. If it doesn't line up with the gospel of grace, there's something wrong with our theology on eschatology.
And you're thinking when He's talking about you, who was the you He was talking to?
Right.
It wasn't me. It was the you of whoever He was with.
Right.
The people.
And
At that time.
and that challenges you because
And it wasn't just something that happened overnight. It was like baby steps.
right.
And we're still learning.
Then you start seeing stuff that you can't unsee.
Because I think it's clear. Once I got out of that way of seeing and perceiving in the Bible, filtering it through what my dogma, this is what it is, and I don't even know where I was going with that, Willie. Just totally lost myself.
Keep going.
I don't know. Just totally lost my point. But it changes everything. It really does. It now when I read certain passages and putting it in the right context and the time frame, what was happening, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was not about something 2,000 years later.
Right.
And it's so clear.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have my eyesight and my perspective changed, and that was a process.
So what happens is you learn one thing, and it's
Now you're able to receive another thing,
Right.
see another thing.
It keeps setting you on a new journey, and that's what's so exciting about.
This is why I'm not threatened by people who may, okay, let's just say universalists. I'm telling you what, they're some of the most loving people I know.
Right.
And I'm no different than them. That doesn't scare me off, or I think I got to avoid people. Because everybody's got truth.
Right.
Everybody can be wrong in an area, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always have something I can glean from somebody.
Right.
Or I'm just using that as one example, how we categorize and think, oh, avoid that person. Now, granted, there's some people, once we understand grace, we can't listen to certain people. But even then, I got to be careful what I say and be so dogmatic that they're not a true believer.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, but there was a time where I believed a lot of what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I was still a believer.
And it brings us back to just simply the main thing being the gospel. You know, the covenant of grace, what God has said about you as a child of Him. And I think that
And why he went to the cross
right.
was to free us from sin and death. He hated the thing that was killing us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and man, there's just so much, and we're always going to be discovering.
Right. And that brings me to, I guess I'll say, the last question. What does it challenge you to do the more you learn? Let's just say you understand God's grace as best as you can.
The grace is literally a person now.
Yeah.
It's a person.
And you start getting a grasp on what grace is. Not that you're there, because I don't think we're ever going to be like, okay, I know everything.
Yeah.
But now, and then you start learning about, we're going to say eschatology, since that was our conversation. Then what does that do when you start learning this, and then you start learning this? Doesn't it challenge you to do what? What does it challenge you to do? To learn more.
To dig deeper.
Dig deeper.
And it challenged me to listen to some people who may have the brain been made this way to really understand even better than I do, have done a lot more studying than even I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we learn from others.
Right.
We all have different gifts and different ways. You know what I mean? So I'm not afraid to listen to people with different viewpoints.
In fact, I think we should challenge ourselves too, because one of the things that I've learned for me, and I know you have, let's just say Pastor Joe Blow speaks on something, let's just say covenant, and you think, I don't know if I get that. So isn't it beneficial for us to go check this out and say, we're marking this one off the box?
Well, a lot of people, literally, they've been instrumental in like, okay, how they see it. Now I'll go read it and I'm like, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
I think they're right.
Or
right,
Uh-huh.
but my eyesight's changing. Well, I see that now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if we close ourselves off and just mark everybody as avoid them because they don't believe like we believe,
Mm-hmm.
we could be missing some real truth. You know.
So if I was going to ask you, and I'm hoping I can draw this answer out, the one major thing that we do wrong as Christians that prevents us from growing, what would it be?
I don't know. It could be a lot of things. What's the answer you're looking for? You have it.
Having a closed mind.
Oh, yes.
Not being willing to learn and to study, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that being willing to challenge what you learn. Martin Luther did a good job of expressing that. He
didn't. He was, man, he got a hard time from people. It's like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't match.
Yeah.
Grace. This isn't, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, you know,
I'm saying he didn't have perfect.
No, he didn't have perfect, but he was trying to present a new thought. And so the point, I think, is the biggest travesty for Christians today is we're willing to sit in front of pulpit or behind the pulpit or in front of the whatever you want to call it. Listen to what is being taught and never challenge what we're learning. And I think that's one of the things that I really love. One of the many things, I'll put it that way, that I really love about you. That if you hear something, you're going to say, hold it, that's going to take me on a new rabbit trail, but I'm willing to go down that rabbit trail and find out what about this is real truth, if it isn't truth. And then after you...
And there's some things I'm on the fence about.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that's okay.
Yeah. And you're also brave enough to say, man, this is going to take me down into a valley or somewhere weird, but I'm gonna go this way.
And I'm human. I admit sometimes I withhold because of what someone might think.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm much better than I used to be, but you know, I think there's a time for saying what you believe, and there's time we need to not say it, you know.
And to learn.
Right.
And sometimes while you're learning,
and there's some people that you can be really comfortable with. I love those people that they're not always like saying, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You can actually have a conversation. They can say what they think, and I can say what I think, and here's what I see, and actually have a conversation and still be friends. And you know, they're not a heretic, they're not a false teacher, you know.
And what about, you know, how I think that whenever the scripture says, come let us reason together, I think that's one of the things, you know, you have a room full of people that have different points of view, and we start bringing it together and say, here's what I believe, this is why I believe what we believe, and so on and so forth. And the next thing you know, it causes this crazy thing called understanding. And Timothy, it says, always seeking knowledge and never coming to understanding. And I think that's a key thing, that challenging us to learn
it's the Holy Spirit leading us. Don't throw off what you sense.
Right. And
you know, let yourself just kind of go places you didn't think you would ever go. You know, as far as listening to people maybe you thought you'd never listen to. I don't know. It's just, I'm not so dogmatic anymore about certain things.
I think if I had said that was my last question, I'm going to ask what the next question is. And I don't know if there's an answer to it, but when you're learning and you're willing to learn and you're talking to people that are trying to learn, and what would be the next thing that they should do? What's next? You know, what do you think that would be? Say, for instance, should they come to a point and say, okay, this is good enough? Should they keep going? What do you think their next should be?
Questions. I mean, questions are important. Asking God questions, or asking other people questions. You know, but not shutting ourselves down, but actually, God can handle our questions. God, this don't make sense, God.
Help me out.
You know, God can handle it, whatever it is.
I think that being embarrassed to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling to somebody.
This is what I see.
This is what I see. Let's talk about it. I think, you know, and don't just go to one person, but go to 3 or 4 or 5 people and think about it and to read it. One of the things that we're finding out is the more we learn about ancient history, the more we learn some of our beliefs line up. And so it's just a constant.
We're so afraid of it's not in the Bible. So no, there were historians that actually lived during that time.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I was thinking about how one person, their life was saved just for the key thing of he was such a meticulous historian, he was like a natural resource to that empire, and that was Josephus. I mean, the Romans did not kill him because they thought he was a natural resource.
They brought him into their
because he was so valuable.
And he literally wrote records of what was going on. So we're not supposed to glean from that?
Yeah.
I mean, God works through people.
And there's a lot more, but I'm just
Yeah.
using Josephus as one.
Yeah.
And so guys, don't ever be afraid to challenge what you hear. Read more, find people that are willing to, and don't be embarrassed if somebody says, that's nuts. Keep learning, keep trying. And if anybody calls you a heretic, just don't pay attention to them. Keep studying.
Well, we throw that word around so
Yeah.
much, it's just ridiculous.
So when it comes to trying to learn more and everything else, as we close out.
See, we're just common people.
Yeah.
We're just being real with you all, having a conversation. We're like this in our normal life, just.
Yeah. Talking.
And I like, because I can come to you and I can say, well, I think this is what I see, and you may not agree, but you don't shoot me down. You don't. We can have that conversation with each other.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of things that I've come to see
Yeah.
you're not sure about, and then
She'll
he comes right on board sooner or later because
She
wait a
says-
minute.
Yeah, she always plants seed. Here, listen to this. Listen to this.
Oh my gosh, I'm always talking about.
And read this and tell me what you think. And I think having that kind of relationship is what helps you to grow. So guys,
We need friendships like that.
yeah, learn. Don't be afraid to learn. You might find out, how much and how awesome God really is.
Even more so.
Yeah. So I don't know how to end this. This is fun. I think we should do more of these.
Yeah.
These question and answer things is fun.
And there's more that we've learned. I've learned how the Gospels, that the letters in red. Oh, always read the letters in red. Well, he was not. He was talking to a certain audience in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to understand that.
Yeah. See, I already.
What was going on, Andrew Farley was the first one that started giving me understanding of that type of thing.
Uh-huh.
He answered some of the hard passages that we question.
Right.
And I love how God is, I'll listen to a certain person for a while, and then he always moves me on to another person. And I'll listen to them for a while. And so, I love it because it's just...
It's a progression, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to get a hold of. Our relationship with God is always going to be progressing. And, wow, it's incredible.
It's permanent. It's solid. Once we get that, boy.
And it's gooder than you think.
Yes. So we hope this stirs maybe your mind a little bit. And
be looking. We'll have another one of these at some time.
We've enjoyed it.
Yeah. We love y'all.
You guys have a great weekend.
Yes.
All right. Y'all take care.